Hi, everybody. Danny Bader here, and I appreciate all the birthday wishes that I got last week when I turned 55. And for our birthdays, a lot of times around our birthdays, we think about life, we think about the number, we think about how many years we've lived and how many more we have. And it kind of reminded me of that quote that you just saw from Marcus Aurelius, who was emperor of Rome back around 160 to 180. And he studied a philosophy called Stoicism. The Stoics had a certain set of values and principles that they followed. It's a pretty interesting read when you look at it. At any rate, that quote there, he says, you could leave life right now, so let that determine what you do and say and think, is a pretty powerful quote. Now, when you think about it firsthand, and initially a lot of people will go, well, gosh, I don't know about that. It's kind of a morbid thought. I don't want to think about dying. And I would encourage you to kind of have a different perspective on it. You see, he doesn't say that you will die right now. He would say that you could leave life, not that you are going to. So it's radically different, right? If somebody says, hey, you're going to die next month and you better go do what you want to do, well, then we're starting to think about all the things we want to do, be with our families, our loved ones, travel. I'm going to get out to Aspen and make a few turns. I'm probably going to get to Costa Rica and try to have a few beers and catch a few waves. Head high waves, nothing bigger. I'm getting too old, something like that. But when you think about what he's saying, and the thought that he had is not to say that we are going to, but that we could. So let that influence what you're going to do and say and think. So what I think Marcus is trying to offer to us is, let's have more of a focus on what we're doing, saying, and thinking every day, based on what we want to produce in our life, the outcomes that we want. My jackrabbit work, I call it vision. So think about this right now. We're coming to the end of the year. If I was to see you this time next year and say, hey, how was your year since we were last spoke in December of 2018? And you go, you know what, Danny, life's really great. I had a really good year. And I say, okay, why? What happened? What are you going to tell me? In all those areas of your life. So in your relationships, with your health and your career and your job and your faith and your spirituality and your travel and your fun and your creativity, all those different key areas of life. What did you do there? Well, here's what has to happen first. We can't focus and think and do and say differently to produce different outcomes in our life if we haven't determined what it is. So I would encourage you now to think, before we start to take Marcus's advice, why don't you get really clear on what a good 2019 looks like for you next year? Why don't you get clear on what a great 2019 looks like for you in all those areas of your life, and kind of write it out. And I learned years ago in my coaching school, write it out in past tense as if it already happened. See, because our brain loves to close the gap between what we imagine and what's not real. That's why we love marking things off so much. Right? Some of us will do something that wasn't on our list. We go over and write it just so we can mark it off. And some of you are laughing right now. But that's good, because that's a good release of what dopamine and some of the chemicals that keep us focused and inspired and moving towards action. So as we roll into 2019 right now, maybe you want to do a little bit of work and imagine what that really good year looks like for you. And then let's take Marcus's advice and live with that thought, not a morbid thought, but more of a thankful thought of gratitude that life every day is a gift. And let's make sure that we're focused on the right things and we're saying the right things. Are we saying things that are useful to us and other people? Or are we saying other things at the expense of other people that maybe make us feel better? Don't necessarily want to do that. Or are we doing the right actions, or are we just busy with all that shit in our inbox that so many of us get busy with? So get clear on what you want to produce. And then I would switch Marcus's quote around. I don't know if I can do this because he was emperor of Rome and I'm only Danny Bader. But I would say, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you think and then do and say. Because our thinking comes first. And it's from our thoughts then that we speak, or that we do something, or we don't do something in terms of procrastination. So trust that you're going to have a really good year in 2019. Even amidst life's imperfections. So how do you do that? Well, you know what? You overcome. You move through those imperfections. You surrender to this thing called life, and perhaps you surrender to that higher power that is probably much more in charge than we give it attention for. That higher power, she, right? God is a she, has our back. So I wish you all the best in 2019, and God bless.